Erev Tov Rabotai, we're continuing with our Mishna Yomi Mesechet Terumot. We're up to Perek Chet Mishnah Chet. Today's Mishnah should be Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Aranbai ben Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov Menuchatam beGan Eden. Amen. The Mishnah now returns to the topic of Terumah. We know a person is required to make sure that his Terumah does not become Tameh. The Pasuk says in Sefer Bamidbar, chapter 18, Pasuk 8, Et mishmeret terumati, I have given you the responsibility of the protection of my terumahs. The Mishnah today is going to discuss how to deal with terumah that might have already become tameh, but might still be tahor. The Mishnah says, Chavit shel terumah shenulad bah sefek tumah. If there is a barrel of terumah that might have already become tameh, the Mepharshim explain, for example, two barrels were near each other, and we know that something tameh touched one of them, but we don't know which barrel it touched. So the Mepharshim say both barrels now have to be treated as possibly tameh, therefore they cannot be eaten, but they may not be burned as tameh terumah usually is, because they might be tahor. So what do you do with it? The Mishnah says, Rabbi Eliezer says, Im hayta munachet bimkom tupa, if the barrel was placed in an unprotected place where it can be easily touched by something tameh, yinichena b'makom hamutzna, the owner must place it in a protected place. V'im hayta megula, and if the barrel was uncovered and the food inside can easily become tameh, not in a way that it was exposed in a way that a snake might drink from it, because if that were the case, we learned in Mishnah Dal, you'd have to spill it out right away. But for example, something that is tameh might have fallen into the barrel. So if the barrel was uncovered, yichasena, he must cover it, because since it's still possible the barrel is tahor, he's obligated to protect it from tumah, just like he has to protect terumah. That's definitely tahor. And Rabbi Eliezer learns this from the same verse. Et mishmeret terumati, I have given you the responsibility of the protection of my terumahs, in plural, both terumah that is for sure pure, tahor, and terumah that's doubtful. The Rabbi Yeshua says, Im hayta munachat b'makom mutzna, if the barrel was in a protected place where it was not likely to become tameh, yinichena b'makom tupa, he may place it in an unprotected place. V'im hayta mechusa, if the barrel was covered, yigalena, he may uncover it, meaning a person is not required to protect this terumah from becoming tameh. However, he may not make it tameh directly, but he may allow it to become tameh on its own by leaving it unprotected. And Mepharshim explain, in fact, he is required to do so, because right now this barrel may not be eaten and may not be destroyed. If the owner leaves it in the current state, there's concern that someone might eat from it. Therefore, he should leave the barrel in a spot where it's likely to become tameh on its own, and then it can be burned. Right, again, we're talking about a barrel of terumah that might have become tameh. Therefore, Rabbi Yeshua says, if it was in a protected place, put it in an unprotected place so that it could become tameh, and if it was covered, you should uncover it. Rabban Gamliel says, Ali chadesh bah davar, he should not make any changes to it. If it was unprotected, he doesn't have to move it to a protected place, but if it was in a protected place, he may not move it to an unprotected spot. And Mepharshim explain, Rabban Gamliel holds, like Rabbi Yeshua, that a person does not have to guard terumah that might be tameh. However, he also holds, unlike Rabbi Yeshua, that one may not cause it to become tameh, and therefore the Rav says the barrel should simply be left where it is. And the Rav tells us, V'alacha ki Rabban Gamliel, the halacha does follow the opinion of Rabban Gamliel. He should not make any changes to it again. If it was unprotected, he doesn't have to move it to a protected place, but if it was in a protected area, he may not move it to an unprotected spot. That is in Rabotai Mishnah Chet. Mishnah Tet now discusses another case that involves keeping terumah from becoming tameh. This case deals, the Mepharshim explain, with the wine press, which consists of two vats, one higher than the other. Grapes were pressed in the upper vat and their juice flowed down to the lower vat. So the Mishnah discusses a case where wine is flowing from the upper vat, but will become tameh if it enters the lower vat. Chavit shenishbera bagata elyona, a barrel of terumah wine broke in the upper vat of the wine press, and the wine is flowing out of the barrel and toward the lower vat. V'tachtuna tme'ah, in the lower vat there is chulin wine that is tameh. So if the terumah wine enters the lower vat, it will touch the tameh wine and become tameh. In addition, the chulin wine in the lower vat will become forbidden to be drunk because they will be mixed with terumah that is tameh. Now we know the Rav tells us, although the chulin wine is tameh, it's currently permitted to be drunk since chulin that is tameh can be consumed. However, if the terumah wine flows into the bottom vat, it will become mixed with the non-terumah wine. The terumah wine will become tameh and have to be destroyed. Since the chulin will be mixed with that tameh terumah, the chulin will have to be destroyed as well. The Mefarshim explained the people standing by have only tameh containers on hand, right? That's the situation that the Mishnah is referring to, because if they would have tahol containers ready, they should of course use them to scoop up the terumah wine and prevent it from flowing in the lower vat. And therefore the Mishnah, the Mefarshim explained, is talking about people standing that only have tameh containers on hand. If they go to get tahol containers to scoop up the wine, some wine will flow into the lower vat in the meantime. So since the terumah will become tameh in any event, may they scoop it up with tameh containers, even though doing so will make the terumah tameh, so that it won't prohibit the wine in the lower vat. That's what the Mishnah is going to explain now. Do they have to go and get the tahol ones, risking the fact that the bottom wine will be ruined? Or anyway, since the top wine that's going to fall in will be tameh, I can might as well scoop it up with my tameh containers. So the Mishnah says, Modeh Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua, both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua agree, she'im yicholim la'atzil mimena revi'it b'tahora yatzil, that if by going to get tahol containers, people will be able to save a quarter log of the terumah wine in a state of tahara, meaning when they return with the tahol containers, there will still be a quarter log of terumah wine that didn't enter the lower vat, and they'll be able to collect it and keep it tahol, yatzil. Right, yatzil, they must get tahol containers and save what they can. And the Mefarshim explain, a quarter log is a significant amount of liquid. If they can keep that much terumah from becoming tameh, all the Tanaim agree they must do so, even though it means that all the wine in the bottom vat will become forbidden to be drunk. A person may not make any of the terumah tameh, a person may not make any of the terumah tameh with his own hands, simply to save the chulin, even though the terumah is about to become tameh on its own. Ve'im lav, and even if not, meaning even if by the time they get tahol containers, not even a quarter log will remain tahol. And the Mefarshim explained, by the time they come back, nearly all the wine that will have flow to the lower vat and become tameh. Rabbi Eliezer says, tered v'titameh, one should let the wine go down to the lower vat and become tameh from the wine that is there. Vali tame'ena bi'adav, but one may not make the terumah tameh with his own hands, collecting it into the tameh container, because even though the terumah wine will become tameh either way, either by you scooping it with your tameh container or letting it drop on its own, it is forbidden to make it tameh directly. Therefore, they must let it flow into the lower vat, even though now both the terumah and the chulin will become forbidden. The Mishnah, the Mefarshim explain in Mishnah 11, we'll quote the opinion of Rabbi Yoshua, who disagrees with Rabbi Eliezer. And the Rav tells us, Ve'en halacha k'Rabbi Eliezer, the halacha does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. B'ezrat Hashem, we will see it in tomorrow's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen v'amen.